And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, in just moments, former Vice President Mike Pence will join us for an exclusive interview. His book has been getting a lot of buzz. But first, we are now 6 full days removed from the election, and more than a dozen key races are still up in the air. Several critical states and districts are now still voting and counting votes and recounting votes. And there's still no official call on who will take the House of Representatives. But tonight we can tell you to take a deep breath, because multiple outlets, including the New York Times and NBC, hardly members of the vast right-wing conspiracy, they are acknowledging, predicting Republicans will, in fact, win the majority of seats in the United States House of Representatives. Now, even Joe Biden, by the way, thinks that the GOP will take a majority, although I don't know if I trust his math skills at this point. And coming up, we're going to bring you the very latest results from the congressional districts yet to be called, including 10 races that Republicans now look poised to win. Make no mistake, GOP control of the House is a big deal, and I'm not going to understate this. It gives Republicans the power to set the agenda, committee assignments, all of this in the House. It gives them the power to subpoena and investigate the Biden administration on numerous important issues, subpoena witnesses, stop the left's radical agenda, and, of course, they have the power of the purse. Now, remember, despite the lies from the media mob, we never predicted this red wave. In fact, we warned all year long this election would be incredibly close, because we were always talking about bellwether states. We were talking about toss-up states with the balance of power decided in a few of these purple battleground states. And I'm getting a little sick and tired of being lied about in the news media, so we will refresh their memory and remind you. 3 key swing states, if you go back to 2016, propelled Donald Trump to victory in 2016. The combined vote of those 3 swing states, 70,000 votes. 2020, 43,000 votes in 3 states. That would be Georgia, Wisconsin, and Arizona, decided the election. If you stay home, Democrats, well, they're likely to win, and you will get the government you deserve. The Senate's always tough, especially we have every bellwether state. As you know, not every state is going to be an easy run for the Republican side. So let's be clear. This is not a guaranteed wave election. Anyone that says Republicans have a lock on the House and the Senate, they're lying to you. They don't know. The races can be extremely competitive in every bellwether state. Now, since day one, since the beginning of last year, as a matter of fact, or this year, rather, we cautioned against all this red wave exuberance. And according to the polls, nearly every key race was within 1 or 2 points, certainly within the margin of error. Some swing states, like Wisconsin, Republicans pulled out a win. In others, like Pennsylvania, it went the other way for very specific reasons. The state's Republican gubernatorial candidate, Doug Mastriano, I don't mind that he's pro-life, but he also did not support exceptions for rape or incest or the mother's life. That position was too radical for voters in that purple state. He lost by 14. Senate candidate Dr. Oz held a much more moderate position. He allowed for exceptions, and he lost by a much lower level, which means that Oz was able to split ticket in Pennsylvania, which is almost unheard of, by double digits. Now, still, it was not enough. Meanwhile, in Michigan, Republicans likely underperformed because of that abortion referendum on the ballot. Tudor Dixon, she ran an amazing campaign, had a great debate. I mean, just wiped the floor with Gretchen Whitmer, but still lost to the lockdown liberal governor. And in other states where Democrats fared pretty well, the fear-mongering, the lies were clearly effective, more than I thought they'd be. And, of course, Republicans were never going to ban Social Security and Medicare and cut veterans' benefits. And Democrats are never going to forgive student loan debt. By the way, they knew it from the beginning. They knew it was unconstitutional. And, by the way, with Republicans in control of the House, they're not going to codify Roe v. Wade either. In fact, Biden is already backing away from the codifying of Roe. And remember, the Democratic talking point about democracy in peril. Well, the biggest challenge to our republic right now is our inability to count votes, especially in places where Democrats are in charge. Again, here we are, another election year, unable to call, more than a dozen key races. It is idiotic. It is unacceptable. Ask yourself, are you happy with what you're witnessing in the state of Arizona, the state of Nevada, the state of California, the state of Alaska? This is a national embarrassment. Many of the problems and delays stem from widespread mail-in voting, early voting. Look at your screen. Over half the country allows all this early voting 5 weeks before the election, including 50 days in Pennsylvania. No wonder why the trust fund brat waited till the last week of October after hundreds and hundreds of thousands of votes were already cast. And look at Nevada. Look at California. All residents are mailed a ballot automatically without even applying for one. Oh, what could possibly go wrong? In Arizona, I have no idea why it's been taking so long to count every vote. In Alaska, we're told we'll be lucky to know anything before Thanksgiving. With the United States of America, is this the best we can do? Are you happy with this system? I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, because the system is broken. Trust is shattered. And of course, there is a clear pathway to improve the process. We send people to the moon, they land, they walk around, they get back in their rocket ship, and they head on home, and they land safely. We can't do better than what's going on around the country. Why not make Election Day a national holiday? Why not make it where everyone votes in person, paper ballots, no exceptions, except for the elderly, the military, people that are out of town? We can make those exceptions. You have partisan observers watching the voting and watch the count. And chain of custody protocols will ensure integrity in every election, confidence in every result. But back to this year's results. While we don't have the final vote totals in several key states, the balance of power in the House seems all but certain. As it stands now, Republicans, they just need 6 more seats for a 218-person majority. Last night, the editor of the left-leaning Cook Political Report tweeted, quote, between Arizona 1, Arizona 6, California 41, Democrats' dreams of holding the House majority probably died tonight. In Arizona, one of the Republican incumbents now has a 3,000-vote lead, and of the approximately 11,000 votes left, they are likely from red areas of the district. In Arizona 6, the Republican incumbent there has a 2,000-vote lead. And again, the 33,000 remaining votes, well, they are thought to be mostly Republicans. In California, 3, Republican Kevin Kiley has a 6-point lead. As of today, there were a whopping 150,000 votes to count, and California 13 remains tight with 50,000 votes left. Over in California 22, the Republican has a 5-point lead with around 50,000 votes to be counted. And meanwhile, Republican Mike Garcia has a 9-point lead in California 27. Kevin Calvert leads by nearly 3 in California 41. Michelle Steele is up by 8, California 45. That's what 80% reporting. In Colorado, Lauren Boebert is holding on to over an 1,000-vote lead and with less than 4,000 votes outstanding. New York 22, the Democrat would need to win 70% of the remaining handful of ballots in order to carry his seat. And other outlets have already called this race for Republican Brandon Williams. Without a doubt, the state of New York has been a bright spot for Republicans in the House. As Dave Wasserman tweeted out, quote, Dems lost 5 New York seats that voted for Biden by more than the national result in 20, including 2 that voted for Biden by double digits. Now, you can't really blame that on bad redistricting. Now, thanks in part to an incredible gubernatorial campaign by Lee Zeldin, Republicans in New York outperformed expectations. And, of course, I believe Zeldin would have won his race if not for something that I've been calling accelerated migration. You have all these northern liberal states, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, then Midwestern states. You have Wisconsin and Indiana and Michigan and Illinois, and they are fleeing these states in droves for warmer weather, lower taxes, a better lifestyle. And last year, 52% of Michigan's migration was outbound. It was even higher in New Jersey, 53%. 58% in New York, and it was a majority in Pennsylvania as well. Florida, by the way, adding 500,000 new residents in the last 4 years, a 14% growth in the last decade. Tennessee grew by nearly 9%, Texas over 15%. The Carolinas grew by around 10%. These political landscapes now are rapidly changing, and Republicans need to take note. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.